A woman will never look at you and simply say, "I'm interested, come closer." That isn't how it works. She uses a much more subtle language. If you don't understand it, you'll miss it every time, not because she didn't show interest, but because you couldn't read the signs. Most men don't realize that the strongest signals of attraction aren't in her words, they are in her hands. It's about what she touches, how she touches it, and when she does it around you. When a woman is attracted to you, her body reacts before she even has time to think. Her nervous system shifts, her energy changes, and that internal tension needs an outlet. She starts expressing it physically through touch without even realizing it. This is where most men fail. They listen to her words and wait for something obvious. Meanwhile, her body has already told them everything, and they missed it. It happens constantly. A woman sits right in front of you showing sheer attraction, but you walk away thinking she was just being friendly. It's not that women are hard to understand, it's that you were never taught the language. If you were, you would notice the patterns immediately. You would see that these behaviors aren't random. They happen at specific moments around specific men, driven by the same underlying psychology. This isn't guesswork, it's behavioral. Studies show that most emotional communication happens without a single word being spoken. While you're focused on what she's saying, the real conversation is happening in her gestures, her movements, and what she touches. Once you understand this, everything changes. You stop waiting for confirmation. You stop second-guessing every interaction. You start seeing exactly what is happening in real time, distinguishing between when she is just comfortable and when something deeper is going on. In this video, I'm going to break this down step by step, using observable patterns rather than opinions. You'll learn exactly what a woman touches when she's attracted to you, what those signals mean, and the one sign most men consistently misread. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Most men miss these signals because they've been conditioned to focus on the wrong thing. We are taught to listen to words as the main indicator of interest. If she sounds engaged, it's good. If she's distant, we assume she isn't interested. But this is a flawed strategy because words are the most controlled part of communication. A woman can easily choose her words and tone, but she cannot fully control how her body reacts in the moment. This is where nonverbal cues carry much more weight than most people realize. Studies show that a vast majority of our emotional exchanges happen without a word being uttered. While you are focused on her speech, the actual conversation is playing out through her mannerisms, her posture, and most importantly, her hands. When a woman feels a spark, her internal state shifts before she even has a chance to articulate it. Her nervous system undergoes a change that generates a form of physical energy, and that energy must go somewhere. It doesn't stay trapped in her thoughts. It manifests through repetitive, small actions, particularly touch. She might play with her hair, brush her neck, fiddle with her accessories, or handle objects in a way that differs from her standard behavior. The issue is that most men either ignore these behaviors or brush them off as random habits. They assume she would act this way with anyone, or they doubt what they are seeing because it isn't the direct verbal confirmation they are looking for. As a result, they fail to spot the pattern forming right in front of them. That is the crucial point. It is a pattern. You shouldn't interpret these signals in isolation. Consistency is what matters. When specific behaviors repeat, especially while she is interacting with you, they start to hold meaning. They show that her actions reflect feelings she hasn't put into words yet. Once you shift your focus from listening to observing, reading the situation becomes much easier. You start to notice how she behaves differently with you than with others. You realize her hands aren't moving by accident, but are reacting to how she feels in your presence. The first place this becomes clear is a signal almost every man has seen but few truly grasp: playing with her hair. On the surface, it seems cliché. You have likely heard that a woman touching her hair means she is attracted to you. Because it sounds so basic, many men either overreact or completely disregard it. The truth lies in the middle. Hair touching is only significant when you understand the why and how of the moment. Not every touch is a sign of attraction. Sometimes she is just moving hair out of her face or grooming out of habit. But when the behavior repeats, seems slightly exaggerated or happens specifically during your interaction, it starts to carry real weight. Neurologically, when a woman feels attraction, her brain releases chemicals like dopamine and norepinephrine, the same ones linked to excitement and heightened awareness. A byproduct of this internal shift is increased nervous energy in the hands. Her hair serves as an accessible outlet for that energy. That is why the movement often looks natural, just a bit more frequent than usual. She might twist a strand around her finger while you speak, sweep it to one side repeatedly, or push it back in a way that exposes her neck without even thinking about it. These aren't planned actions, they are reactions. And that is exactly what makes them reliable. The part most men miss is the context. Is she maintaining eye contact while she does it? Does it happen more when you are talking or during a pause? Does it repeat throughout the conversation? These details tell you if the behavior is random or tied to her feelings for you. Also, look at the rhythm. Casual grooming is quick and functional. Attraction-driven behavior lingers. It repeats. It becomes fluid and almost absent-minded. That difference is subtle, but once you see it, it becomes obvious. There is also a deeper layer here. When she moves her hair to reveal her neck, it is about more than just comfort. The neck is an extremely vulnerable area of the body. Exposing it is tied to trust and openness on a subconscious level. She isn't choosing to show her neck. Her body is simply becoming less guarded in your presence. That is the real signal. It isn't about the hair itself. It is about what her body is beginning to allow. Instead of jumping to conclusions, step back and observe the pattern. Look at the frequency, the timing, and how it fits into the flow of the conversation. When you put those pieces together, you will see that a small, seemingly harmless gesture is actually one of the earliest signs of a deeper shift. Once that shift starts, it rarely stays isolated. It moves from her hair to something even more revealing, her neck or collarbone. This is where the interaction moves past surface-level attraction into something more instinctive. Unlike hair, which is easy to adjust, the neck is a biologically and psychologically sensitive area. Evolutionarily, the neck is a vulnerable point. The body naturally guards it. People don't casually expose or draw attention to their throat unless they feel a genuine sense of safety. When a woman starts grazing her neck while in your presence, something significant is unfolding beneath the surface. She isn't just fidgeting, she is responding. In many instances, this manifests as a light, delicate movement of her fingers along the side of her neck or across her collarbone. At times, it is subtle, almost as if she is absent-mindedly tracing the skin. At other times, it is far more pronounced, especially if the motion repeats throughout your conversation. Remember, the movement itself isn't the primary signal, the context is. Ask yourself these three things. Is she fully engaged with you while she does it? Does it happen during eye contact or immediately after you've said something that changes the dynamic between you? Is it accompanied by a relaxed posture or heightened focus on you? When these elements align, the message becomes clear. You are witnessing a blend of attraction and vulnerability. Her body is not only reacting to you, but it is also working to manage the sudden surge of emotional tension. Touching her neck acts as a release for that energy, while simultaneously drawing your attention to a sensitive, feminine part of her body. This is not an accident. Even if she isn't consciously planning it, her body is communicating a deep sense of openness. She is signaling that her walls are coming down and that she feels secure enough in your presence to allow a level of exposure that she wouldn't show to just anyone. Avoid this common trap. Most men misinterpret this as simple nervousness or discomfort. While there is a nervous energy involved, it is not the flight kind of nervousness that makes someone pull away. It is emotional activation, the kind that occurs when someone feels a spark they didn't fully anticipate. Being uncomfortable creates distance. Being affected creates attraction. When she touches her neck in a fluid, relaxed way while remaining focused on you, she isn't trying to escape. She is leaning into the moment. Watch for exposure markers too, tilting her head, brushing her hair aside, or keeping her posture open to ensure her neck stays visible. She isn't doing this on purpose, but her body is no longer closed. It is opening up, and that is a green light. Don't rush, don't overanalyze, and definitely don't force an escalation. Simply recognize the shift for what it is. Once she reaches this point, her communication becomes even more direct. She will move from the neck to one of the most instinctively powerful areas of attraction on the human face, her lips. This is a high-level signal, and it is easy to misinterpret if you don't know what to look for. Whether she is lightly touching her lips, biting her lower lip, or applying balm while you talk, she is directing your focus. There is a powerful biological reason for this. Science shows that when men interact with women, a massive portion of their attention is automatically drawn to the lips, especially when there is movement or color involved. This is hardwired into your brain. When she highlights her lips while staying engaged with you, she is amplifying a signal that your biology is already programmed to notice. She is spotlighting one of the most expressive and sensitive parts of her face. But, as always, the secret to understanding it lies entirely in the context. If she applies lip balm quickly and resumes her conversation without a shift in demeanor, it is simply a routine action. However, if she does so slowly, while maintaining eye contact or listening intently, it transforms into something entirely different. It becomes intentional, even if she is not fully conscious of the decision. Timing is the other critical factor. Does she touch her lips during a lull in the conversation? Does it occur when the atmosphere between you becomes more charged? Does it happen repeatedly as you talk? These patterns distinguish between random behavior and a specific reaction to you. There is also an emotional layer here that many men overlook. Touching the lips is not just about drawing your gaze, it is about managing internal tension. When a woman feels attracted to you, especially when she is still processing her feelings, she experiences a blend of curiosity, excitement, and mild nerves. Her lips serve as a physical outlet for that energy, which is why the movement often appears subtle and thoughtful. The common mistake is either ignoring the signal or overreacting. Ignoring it means missing a moment where her body is communicating clearly. Overreacting means disrupting the natural flow of the interaction by forcing an escalation too soon. The best approach is simple awareness. Recognize what is happening without changing your behavior drastically. Stay present, stay engaged, and let the connection build. At this stage, she is no longer just reacting to you, she is actively directing her attention towards you. As that connection strengthens, the signals become even more revealing, extending from her touch to how she interacts with the objects around her. As her focus intensifies, you might notice a behavior most men don't associate with attraction: specific, non-random fidgeting. You may see her playing with a necklace, spinning a ring, adjusting a bracelet, or tugging at an earring while you talk. On the surface, this can seem like an unconscious habit. In a way, it is. But the crucial factor is the timing. When a woman feels emotionally activated by excitement, curiosity, or genuine attraction, her body cannot remain still. There is a surge of internal energy that requires a physical outlet. Her hands instinctively look for something to regulate that intensity, and often that something is whatever is closest to her. Jewelry becomes her tool of choice. In psychology, this is known as a form of self-soothing. It is the body's way of managing emotional intensity without drawing overt attention to it. Rather than expressing her feelings entirely through outward gestures, she channels that energy into small, repetitive movements. Here is the key. When this happens around you, especially if it intensifies as you speak, it is not random. It is a response. She is not fidgeting because she is bored. Boredom leads to disengagement, checking a phone, or pulling away. This is the opposite. She is present, she is engaged, and her body is processing a heightened emotional state. Consider, too, where the jewelry is located. If she plays with a necklace resting near her collarbone or chest, she is not just managing energy, she is subtly guiding your focus to that area. The same applies to rings and bracelets. The motion naturally draws your eyes toward her hands and wrists. None of this is premeditated, it is instinctive. Most men stumble here because they either fail to notice it or dismiss it entirely, assuming that because it doesn't look like obvious flirting, it lacks meaning. Do not make that mistake. When a woman is consciously trying to impress, her behavior is usually guarded and calculated. However, when she is genuinely affected, her body begins to act on autopilot, and those reflexive responses are far more difficult to feign. What you are observing is a natural reaction, a subtle spike in emotional intensity, and a physical outlet for feelings she hasn't yet put into words. Rather than dismissing it, watch for the pattern. Does it intensify when you are speaking? Does it become more frequent as the conversation turns personal? Is it paired with other indicators like sustained eye contact, an open posture, or singular focus on you? When those elements converge, it is clear that her actions are not random, they are deeply connected. As this bond strengthens, another transition occurs. She stops channeling that energy into inanimate objects and begins directing it toward you. Until now, we have discussed indirect cues, her touching her hair, adjusting her jewelry, or managing her own internal tension through small movements. But when she moves from these self-soothing behaviors to physically touching you, the entire dynamic shifts. It is no longer indirect, it is deliberate. This is the moment most men either overlook or mishandle. When she reaches out to touch your arm during a chat, places a hand on your shoulder, or lets her fingers brush against yours, she is breaking a social barrier. Such contact is never purely accidental. It requires a decision, even if it is a rapid, subconscious one. She is choosing to create a connection, and that choice is loaded with meaning. Of course, not all contact is identical. A fleeting, unavoidable brush in a crowded hallway means nothing, but when that touch occurs in a controlled setting while you are engaged in conversation, especially when paired with intense eye contact, it becomes a definitive signal. Psychologically and biologically, she is doing two things at once. She is not just broadcasting her interest, she is testing the connection. Physical contact triggers a release of chemicals in the brain that foster trust and intimacy. She is simultaneously demonstrating how she feels and working to deepen that feeling in real time. This is why the moment is so vital. Here is where most men fail. They freeze. They act as if the touch didn't happen, or they become awkward, overthink the gesture, and kill the momentum of the interaction. From her point of view, that feels like a rejection. Imagine reaching out, creating a spark of contact, and receiving zero acknowledgement. It feels like the signal failed to land. When that happens, she will often retreat, not necessarily because she lost interest, but because her effort wasn't matched. The strategy here is not to overreact, but to respond naturally. If she touches your arm while laughing, stay present. Smile, maintain the eye contact, and let the moment breathe. If the interaction continues to develop, you can mirror that energy in a subtle, appropriate way. You aren't forcing the situation. You are simply meeting her where she is. Authentic attraction is never a one-way street. It requires a reciprocal exchange of energy. Beyond the physical contact itself, the quality of her touch reveals her true intent. Is the contact fleeting, pulled away in haste, or does it hold just a heartbeat longer than expected? Watch for repetition. Observe if she lingers or if her body immediately pulls back to establish space. These nuances distinguish between a casual gesture and a meaningful sign. When a woman possesses genuine interest, her touch lacks any sense of pressure. It moves fluidly, integrating seamlessly into the conversation. Once that shift occurs, you transition from a mere participant in her day to someone she is actively bonding with. As this physical connection deepens, her subconscious energy begins to manifest in ways most men fail to notice, specifically through her interaction with nearby objects. This is a subtle, highly revealing signal, often misinterpreted as indifference. To the untrained eye, it appears entirely neutral, but it is actually a primary indicator of emotional engagement. When a woman feels intense attraction but has not yet channeled that energy directly toward you, she often redirects it toward inanimate objects. This is most observable in settings like a restaurant or bar, where items sit between you. Rather than leaving these objects alone, she engages with them rhythmically. She may trace the rim of her glass with a fingertip, wander her hand along the edge of a coaster, or repeatedly slide her fingers up and down the stem of a glass while maintaining eye contact with you. While these motions seem incidental, they are not coincidental. They are physical conduits for her internal heightened state. In this scenario, her body is actively experiencing attraction. However, because the interaction has not yet reached a level where she feels comfortable expressing that energy directly toward you, she redirects it toward a neutral object. That object becomes a safe substitute, a place for her internal tension to go without the risk of crossing a social boundary too abruptly. Body language experts refer to this as a form of displacement. It occurs when a person feels a strong internal impulse, but chooses to channel that expression outward in a subtle, indirect way. In this context, it is almost always linked to attraction. To gauge this, look at how she interacts with the item. Is the movement slow? Is it repetitive? Does she do it while maintaining eye contact or staying fully locked into the conversation? If the answer is yes, this is not a habit. It is a direct response to your interaction. Timing is the final piece of the puzzle. Does this behavior occur during moments where the chemistry between you feels more charged? Does it happen during a pause in the conversation, when the silence is heavy with mutual attention? In these moments, her body is seeking a release, and rather than pulling away, she stays present by externalizing that energy. Most men make the mistake of ignoring this because it doesn't look like flirting in the traditional cinematic sense. There is no obvious signal or clear invitation, but that is exactly why it is so significant. The more subtle a behavior is, the less it is consciously controlled, and the less controlled it is, the more authentic it becomes. Stop brushing these details aside. They are the markers of what is transpiring beneath the surface. They prove she is not just casually passing time with you, she is feeling something, and that feeling is looking for an outlet. As that energy intensifies and her comfort level grows, her behavior evolves. She stops merely redirecting her attention and starts refining how she presents herself to you. At this phase, the interaction has moved beyond casual interest. She is engaged, and her focus is zeroed in on you. But now she begins adjusting herself, not randomly, but in a way tied directly to how she is being perceived by you. You might see her smoothing her clothes, straightening her top, adjusting her sleeves, fixing her outfit, or shifting her position in her seat. On the surface, it looks like simple self-grooming. But context is everything. If she was doing this before you spoke, it is meaningless. If these adjustments start during your interaction, especially after she realizes she has your full attention, it is something entirely different. It is presentation. This behavior is rooted in an ancient, natural instinct. When a woman is emotionally engaged and attracted, she instinctively wants to show you the best version of herself. It isn't about perfection. It is about awareness. She becomes conscious of how she looks in your eyes, and that awareness alters her behavior. These adjustments are often reactive. If you look at her in a certain way, if the mood shifts, or if the conversation turns personal, her body responds by polishing her appearance. She may sit a little taller, adjust her posture, or smooth her clothing even if nothing was out of place. These are not random acts. They are responses. They indicate that your opinion matters to her. People do not expend energy on how they are perceived unless the person they are with is significant to them. The error most men commit here is assuming this is a general habit. Look closer, and you will see it is tethered to the interaction itself. It happens when you are engaged. It happens when she is focused on you. It happens when the moment carries weight. That is what separates it from mundane behavior. Watch for consistency. Does she correct herself repeatedly throughout the conversation? If she does, you are seeing a pattern, a clear sign that she is actively, consciously aware of you. This behavior is external. She is not merely feeling emotions, but actively shaping how she wants to be perceived by you. This represents a significant shift. She has moved from passively reacting to your presence to actively participating in it. She is now intentionally crafting the tone and feeling of the interaction. Once a woman reaches this level of comfort, there is one final, often misinterpreted signal that synthesizes everything. Most men incorrectly assume this behavior signifies disinterest. When a woman rests her chin on her hand, gently cradles her face, or touches her cheek while maintaining gaze, Many perceive it as boredom or a sign that she is waiting for the conversation to conclude. In reality, the inverse is frequently true. This is called facial framing, and when it occurs within the right context, it is a primary indicator that she is deeply engaged. She is drawing focus to her face, her eyes, and her expressions. By doing so, she is anchoring her own attention while simultaneously capturing yours, a silent, powerful way of requesting that you remain in the moment with her. Of course, context is the deciding factor. If she is looking away, scanning the room, or mentally checked out, she may indeed be bored. However, if she is holding eye contact, listening intently, and smiling while resting her chin on her hand, you are witnessing deep focus, comfort, and emotional presence. And she is no longer filtering her actions or managing her image. She has settled into the interaction. This honesty is born from comfort rather than effort, and when combined with the other signals we have discussed, it confirms that a genuine connection is unfolding. Consider the narrative these signals create. From the start, her body spoke before her words did. She adjusted her hair, touched her neck, fidgeted with nearby objects, and sought physical contact. Now, she is fully present, engaged, and transparent. These signals are rarely announced verbally. They are revealed through patterns and consistent small actions that communicate her feelings long before she articulates them. Moving forward, your objective is not to hyperanalyze every individual gesture, but to observe the overarching patterns. Look for the context in which multiple signals align. When you recognize that consistency, do not second-guess or freeze, respond with natural confidence. Maintain your presence and mirror the energy she is extending. By the time you notice these patterns, she has already bridged the gap and is waiting for you to meet her halfway. That is the moment where most men either seize the opportunity or let it slip by. Have you ever observed these behaviors in the past without realizing their true meaning? Share your experiences. If this has provided a clearer lens through which to view attraction, ensure you stay connected for the next installment, where we will cover what she actually expects you to do once these signals are clear. That is the step where most men stumble.